Welcome to the Football Show. I'm Peter Martin. I'm delighted that I've got a one-to-one special guest today. Jamie Murphy is joining us to look back over his career, talk about some of the managers and the players he's played alongside in an illustrious career, which still has a few years left in it, I'm almost certain. Jamie, delighted that you could join us in the studio. First and foremost, it's a career where you've had some very interesting managers, some great players that you've played alongside, but of all the clubs, where was the place that you enjoyed the most?
The place, well, I enjoyed everywhere, to be fair. There's not many I didn't enjoy, but I felt like I played my best football and I had my most enjoyable times probably Sheffield United. It was hard at first going down, but after a little while you get used to it, and the fans were amazing, and it was just a real big club and a great city.
Yeah, it's one of those periods in your life where actually there was a lot of people looking at you. There's a lot of people talking about you as well. There was a bit of exposure then.
Yeah, and it was the perfect transition to English football for me. Not going to too high a level so that you don't really play. Obviously going in at League One and playing for a team like that and playing every week, as you said, it gets you a bit of exposure, and eventually got myself my big move. Yeah,
let me take you back. Motherwell, 7 years at Fir Park, and again, when you're talking about a youngster who's at a club where they want to develop their own talent, they want to see somebody like yourself flourish.
Yeah, I think that's the model that Motherwell was built on. It'll always be that way, and hopefully again in the next couple of years you see some more coming through. But it was perfect for me. I had some good experienced players around me, Stephen Craigan, Keith Lasley, Stevie Hamill, people like that who I looked up to, and when you go into the first team they make sure the standards are right and you're doing the right things, so it was a really good grounding for me at the start.
Yeah, what were your memories of making the debut? Was it heart-fluttering, thinking?
It was, yeah. I remember the day before I'd played with the under-19s and I got taken off at 60 minutes and I was like, what's going on here? And Chris McCart had said to me, you're in the first team squad for tomorrow. I think Scott McDonald was injured maybe. So that you go away first. I just thought it was my first trip away. I'll go along. I'll get a bit of experience in that. Sure enough, 10 minutes to go. Jamie, get ready. You're going on. And I just remember how happy my family was at the end of the game. To just obviously they were taking me training 2 or 3 nights a week for the last 10 years. So it was as much a part of it for them as it was for me.
Yeah, and your dad must have been incredibly proud.
He was, yeah. He said some nice things after that game. So it was really good. And then what people don't know, I was in a car accident straight after the game, and I spent the night in hospital. So it was a bit of an eventful day.
Tell me your dad didn't crash the car.
No, he didn't. No, he was away somewhere else, and I was driving home, and somebody crashed into the back of me, and I had a bit of whiplash and stuff. I couldn't really move my neck, so I ended up missing the next week. But then came back in after that, so it's always a story to tell people about my debut.
Oh, that is an absolute belter. What did the gaffer say?
I don't think he wanted to laugh, but because it was pretty serious for a couple of days. But you look back on it and you have a little smile. Thankfully, nobody was hurt.
Yeah. Do you remember what the manager said to you in that first game? Was there any words of wisdom?
Not really. No. I just remember him telling me to go on, and I think you get the old try your best, do what you've been doing for the youth team, that kind of thing. And I remember going on, getting a few touches of the ball and stuff like that. I think we lost 1-0. Derek Riordan scored a 1-0 loss. So you always wanted to win the game in your first debut, but to actually get on the pitch was big for me.
Yeah. What about that first goal?
The first goal was a penalty at Easter Road again. I'd been doing really well. Hadn't quite got the first goal, and I started the last game of the season at Easter Road. It was the year the season got extended, so it was the Thursday night, the last game of the season. And we got a penalty after 20 minutes, and Ross McCormack was the penalty taker, and he picked up the ball and he came and gave me it. He says, "You hit this," and I was like, and I did, and I remember the goalie should have saved it. It went under his hand, but just that relief of getting your first goal, and it takes a bit of pressure off, and you can then relax and then become a better player from there.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of players already, but Motherwell, it was a right good team. There was always a good mix of experience, but a club famed for bringing people through. What was the dressing room like?
It was excellent. You know, I've had a few good dressing rooms in my career, but then, you know, that one was up there. Like you said, we had a mixture of some young boys, myself, Sean Hutchison, people like that, and then you had the kind of old guard, Stephen Craig and Keith Lasley, Stephen Hamill, people like that who kind of made it as one. It wasn't like old and young, it was like everyone in together. So that was a big part, I think, why we done so well.
Yeah, were the wind-ups good?
Yeah, there was a few. Stephen McGarry was always usually at the middle of it. But yeah, it was a good dressing room.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you aware at that time, as you were starting to get a regular place in the side, was there always in the back of your mind that burning ambition to try different leagues, you know, as you started to become more prominent in the team?
Well, but at the start of my career, I remember having 3 goals, and it was to play in the Premier League, play with my country, play with Rangers. So thankfully, you know, I've managed to do all 3. But at that time, it was about getting into the first team. Can you get into the first team? Can you start games? Right, now you're starting games, can you score goals? Right, now you're scoring goals, can you be the best player? And then if that comes along, then you'll get your move obviously down south. So that was kind of the way it worked. I never ever thought like too far ahead. It was just kind of play and try and enjoy yourself and go from there.
Yeah. Is there special memories that stick in your mind from your days in Motherwell? Games, maybe a goal?
Yeah, there was a few. I think the Scottish Cup semi-final at Hampden where we beat St Johnstone 3-0, and I scored after 15 minutes or whatever. I played really well. Kind of took it by a few and put it in the bottom corner. It's probably one of my favourite goals, so I'd say that one was probably the best.
Everybody loves getting to a final. I know you reached the Scottish Cup final. Is it tinged with the disappointment, or is there a certain amount of pride saying, listen, this is something to savour?
No, it was the first. It was full on disappointment. I just remember that day, like, I remember it was pouring with rain, Scottish Cup final day. It never usually happens, usually expecting a bit of sun. We went out, Celtic were just far too good for us. They scored after 10 minutes or so and we never really had the ball. It was just a full-on disappointing day. You know, yeah, we have the memories of the quarter-final, semi-final. We've done great to get there. That was kind of our final, but the actual final was a disappointing day.
And as time goes on, does the pain go away and you think to yourself, wait a minute, this, you know, not many people even get a runners-up medal, never mind anything else?
Not really, no.
I can tell with your face you're saying no.
I still remember that. It was, you know, you have bad days in football and games you want to forget and stuff, but, you know, that one always sticks in the head of being the first kind of big one in my career where it was like just a complete flat-out disappointment. Yeah.
Stuart McCall.
Yeah. Great guy, great manager. I got on really well with him and his assistant, Kenny Black, both helped me out a lot. And Kenny was obviously, it helped. Kenny's family were from Sheffield, so when I went down, I would go see him and speak to his family and stuff, and they helped me a lot when I first went down. So there were 2 people who came in after I had a lot of good managers, Craig Brown, Terry Butcher, Maurice Malpass, people before that, yeah. Mark McGee as well. But you know, Stuart McCall was probably the one where I probably did my best under and eventually got that move.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically, you know, the thing about it is, we'll talk about so many managers that you've had, but it, as well as people being, you know, high on tactics, some of the managers you're going to talk to us about, it's been able to get the best out of you. Is that what McCall was able to do? Yeah,
he had a mixture of both. Obviously, tactically, we knew what we were doing. We played the same formation most weeks, 4-4-2. But again, his was a lot about the team camaraderie thing. You know, we're close, we're together. If you're going out, make sure everyone goes out. If you're going for dinner, invite everybody, go for dinner, these kind of things. So I think that's got a big part to play in football, and that's something that people maybe don't see all the time and don't know and stuff. That if the closer you are as a team, the more successful usually you're going to be. Yeah, you mentioned Craig Brown. Did you start in the 6-6 game? I did. I came off. I played about an hour or 70 minutes or something. I think it might have been, we were losing when I came off. I know that. But yeah, it was a crazy game. I remember asking somebody the score at one point on the pitch. It was at that point you didn't really know. You lost count of the goals, but again, a great memory and a great goal by Djukovic the last couple of minutes to score after we had missed a penalty 2 minutes before that, and you thought it was all away. But you know, it was a good memory.
It's one of those crazy games where I can remember actually seeing some of my mates who are Motherwell fans leaving at 4-2.
Yeah, you had a lot.
Thought the game was a bogey.
You had a lot, and it just shows you should never abandon your team.
From Motherwell, 7 years. Why Sheffield United? What was the turning point for you in that one?
It just felt right. I was coming up to the end of my contract, end of the season. I'd never wanted to leave Motherwell just for free at the end of it for nothing I could have left for. So Sheffield United came up in December. I'd kind of been aiming to go to the Championship. I'd had a chance to go to them if they'd got promoted in the summer, but they lost on penalty. They lost 13-12 on penalties. I think the goalie missed a penalty. I remember watching it thinking, oh no. But they came back in again in December, said on League One we're trying to get up. Would you come down? And it was just the perfect move at the perfect time for me.
Yeah.
Big club to go to, good fans, good city, reminded me a lot of home. The rivalry between Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. So it was a bit like Glasgow in that sense.
You're a young boy still then. What was the standard like, the football?
It was really good. You know, we had players like Dave Kitson and people like that were in there at the time who'd played Premier League. So there was certainly some big names there, and you're thinking, oh, I need to get up to speed here, I need to prove myself to these people. And you know, the first 6 months I would say was difficult, being away from home for the first time and that as well. But you know, it all changed when we kind of changed the manager and stuff, and kind of went from there.
Yeah. How important was the change of the manager? Because Nigel is somebody that's played a bit in your life.
He has, yeah. He came in, and at that point I was not ready to give up, but I thought, I'm getting a bit homesick here. Everyone's back home. I'm missing out a little bit by being down here, so I'll try and get back home. But he came in and he completely changed my thoughts on football and whatever. He made it so simple and direct instructions what to do. Go out and enjoy yourself. Don't try and be like all these other super fit, super athlete humans. You don't need to be in the gym every day. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be doing that. You just be yourself. Go out there and express yourself. And it kind of went from there. My career fully changed from then.
Yeah. When he says that sort of thing to you, are you taking a step back and thinking to yourself, this guy's at the wind up?
Yeah. Well, I think he's been that way his full career. But at first, when he says things that other managers wouldn't say to you, you're like, oh, I don't know if he's kidding me on, but you realise he's not. He wants you to do what's best for you. How do you want to prepare for a game? It's not how he wants you to prepare for a game, it's how do you want to prepare for a game. So started kind of going with that, and from then on, you know, performances started coming against big teams, and people started coming to watch, and started getting Player of the Year at Sheffield United, that kind of thing, and then, you know, that's when you eventually go up a level.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel Clough is a manager in his own right. He was a really good player as well in his career. Did you sense, okay, he's trying to psychologically get the best out of me here? Did you see traits of his dad in him?
I think you do. I've only heard stories and stuff about his dad and whatever. Obviously, he was a fantastic manager, won European Cups and things like that. So if that didn't rub off on him, then I'm not sure who would. So yeah. I'm sure there's a bit of that in him.
Did you ask him about his dad?
No, I haven't. No. You know, I think he's kind of his own person. You know, I always feel that when you've got a player or a manager whose parent has been a good player. We had Tom Hateley for years at Motherwell. Yeah. He was a great player. Obviously, his dad was a great player as well. You never want to ask too much of dad, because then you think, oh, you're just being a bit nosy or whatever. But you know, there's a lot of good players out there with famous dads.
So suddenly he basically says, look, I want Jamie Murphy to be Jamie Murphy. Do what you do best. Think about it. Play to your strengths. Go out there. Was that almost a sense then when you played for Sheffield United? This is like growing up as a schoolboy again. It's like going out in the park and enjoying it with my mates.
That was exactly how I felt. You know, I felt like we had a good team, and again, the team was really close. He was big on it. He would organise team dinners, and so they were all your friends. You know, it felt like I'm going out on Saturday. play with my friends, they're going to give me the ball, I'm going to run, I'm going to take it past people, I'm going to try and score, I'm going to try and set somebody up. And it was definitely by far the most enjoyable time of my career, 2 years.
Yeah. Did you like Sheffield as a city?
Yeah, I loved it. We had a nice flat just close to kind of, a little bit like the West End of Glasgow. We had cafes and restaurants and stuff. And we had our first child down there, so I can always say my first child was born in Sheffield. She's a Sheffield United fan.
Yeah. So basically, was it a girl?
Little girl, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, tell me she can play for England at any sport.
Yeah, I've got 4 kids and 3 of them can play for England. Yeah.
Are you in a dilemma?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully
Jamie?
not.
I'm sure they'll play for Scotland. Or well, I'm sure if they're good enough, they'll play for Scotland.
Yeah, fingers crossed. You mentioned the step up, Brighton. How did that all come about?
Well, they came, and you hear things. I knew they came to watch a few times, and at the start of the summer, my agent had said they're going to come in for you at some point. You just need to do some things here and there, or whatever. So I kind of went into that pre-season knowing that I was kind of wanting to go. Nigel Clough had sadly been sacked, so that had made my mind up for me that, right, the manager I've had some success with is away. Now's the time to go. Then Brighton eventually came in. I spoke to the club, explained my reasons why. I want to play for Scotland. That was still a big aim. I want to try and get to the Premier League. Brighton were a good team in the Championship. It gave me a good opportunity, and they were okay with it. Obviously, it was good money they got. And it worked out well for both, because the next year I think they had another year in League One, and then they went back-to-back promotions and got to the Premier League themselves. So. Yeah. It was a win-win for everybody.
Was that under Chris Hughton?
That was Chris Hughton, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was, he brought me in, and he was a really, really top class manager. Chris was.
What was it about him? I mean, you've had, as you mentioned there, you've had a Craig Brown, meticulous. You've had a Terry Butcher again. A man who wants you basically to give his all. Mark McGee, such an inspirational figure. Stuart McCall, again, trying to bring out the best. Nigel Clough, out of left field, a different type of psychology for you. So what was it about Hughton?
He was the best manager I've had tactically. We went into every game, tactically knew exactly what we were doing. We were going to play this way. If the ball goes here, you know it's going there. This is how you do it. Defend down this side, let them come in. If you get the ball, you come in here, you do this. And we had some really good players, and I think that's all together, that's kind of why that worked.
Is that a style? I mean, it's interesting you saying that. Is that a style? And probably Chris Hughton is typical of the managers now, where the game is so, well constructed, and people know set plays, people know when somebody's going to make that run or play in a certain area. Was that a big sea change for you mentally to deal with that because of the ability to express yourself under Nigel?
Yeah, it was massive. Sheffield United, it was like, get on the ball, go past people, run, do this, do that. If we give you the ball, you try and do something. With Chris Hughton and Brighton, it was more, we're going to sit in our shape, we're defensive, do your defensive job first, and then we attack. And I really bought into it. Like people said, you hear people nowadays saying, oh, it wasn't how I wanted to play, or do this, or whatever. I just wanted to win. I just wanted us to get promoted. So it was a lot more defensive playing at Brighton. But, like I said, we really bought into it. Everyone really bought into it, and we were the best. That year I thought we were the best team in the league. We never got promoted. And then the following year again, I thought we were the best team in the league, and the promotion came. Yeah,
give me an insight into the players then, because to play that system, it doesn't matter. We always say you can play any system you want, but if you haven't got the players to get you that eventual promotion, who were the players there, the calibre of them? Who did you like playing with?
There was a few. We had a good spine of the team. We had Lewis Dunk, Shane Duffy, Conor Golson, 3 of the back 4. We had Hunemeyer, was another German boy. He was a really good player. In midfield, you had Sidwell, Dale Stephens, Kyle, any of them could play, Ollie Norwood. You had a few wide players, myself, Solly March, Knockhart, who got Championship Player of the year we got promoted, and sometimes was just completely unplayable. And then people like Glenn Murray up front, who seemed to always just be in the middle of the goal and put the ball in the back of the net. So we had a really, really strong team.
You've mentioned 2 or 3 names there that will be so well known to people in Scotland. Conor Golson, did you see in him, something that you thought this guy's going to go on to be a really good player?
Definitely. He came in from Shrewsbury at the time, obviously playing League Two, stepping up to the Championship. And when he first came in, we had Gordon Greer and Lewis Dunk were playing centre half. But when you see someone's work ethic, how good they're going to be. Plus, he kind of had everything. He was tall, he could head it, he could run. He'd done his work in the gym, he would do stuff after training. And eventually, you kind of break into the team and you go from there, and you can see what he's went on to do, especially at Rangers.
I suppose you're not surprised by what he's achieved at Rangers and what he's shown to them?
No, not at all. I had a good conversation when there was a chance of him coming up and I was already there. Try to tell him what it was like. I always used to tell him what it was like anyway, but I think he just wanted that final confirmation before he made the move.
And in contrast to that, you mentioned Golson and the qualities that he had. Were you surprised that it just didn't work out for Shane Duffy?
I was, because at Brighton, he was one of our best players, and a big part of that team that got us promoted. But sometimes that happens when people go to clubs. They're not the right fit. There's a lot of pressure on them for different places. I know for the big man, it was hard for him. It was during lockdown. He was on his own a little bit. So, people don't think about these things. But you can see he's went back down to Brighton and he was playing again. So he's definitely a top player.
Yeah. The other man that you mentioned, I thought was just an absolute terrier in the middle of the park, Beram Kayal.
Yeah, Beram was there. He was a bit of an eccentric kind of guy. Sometimes you had to rein him in a little bit. And he was one where he had to really buy into right, we're playing this way, you keep your shape, because sometimes, Beram would just wander off somewhere and try and do his own thing. But, he really bought into it, and he was a really good player, especially that first year. I think he might have got nominated for Player of the Year or whatever that first year.
Yeah, what did promotion mean to you? What was the calibre of teams that were around you and that made it so special?
It was huge. That was the full aim of the last couple of years, to get the club to the Premier League. Everything was geared towards that. The training ground was a Premier League standard training ground, the club, the stadium, everything was ready. It was just about us doing the business on the pitch. We had teams like Newcastle, Aston Villa, all that around us, and again, I thought we were by far the best team in that league last year. We think we lost the league title on the last day, but promotion was already sealed, so it would still be nice to finish first, but the ultimate aim was promotion.
Yeah. When you get into the Premier League, was there a sense from you that you would have liked to have stayed a bit longer and given it a longer go?
I would have. The manager really wanted me to stay, but again, Chris Hughton was really honest. He was like, "You stay, but you won't play all the time. You'll be on the bench or maybe out the squad. But when we need you, you'll do this and do that," which I was okay with. But it was Rangers that was coming in, and that was again one of my goals, was to try and play for them. So, and he knew that, so he was really happy.
Talk to me about the buzz, about the potential for you coming to Rangers, and I know, especially with your dad, he would have felt so proud of the fact that you're going to join your boyhood heroes. What? How did you handle, first of all, that little inclination that it was on?
Yeah, that was obviously exciting times. We'd obviously been in the Premier League 6 months. I'd played a few games, a few big games. Man City, Guardiola's first game, played about 80 minutes. Played a few other ones. But it was getting to Christmas and I hadn't played for about a month, and I was thinking maybe it's time I should look at something else. And the Rangers thing came up, and obviously as soon as that came up, I jumped at the chance. Yeah.
What was the deciding factor? Was there a conversation or somebody that was able to say to you, look, this is how you're going to fit in?
Not really, no. It was, I think, if it was any manager, I'd have probably went to Rangers. Yeah, absolutely anyone. Again, it was a dream of mine, and my dad's especially, that one day I would play with Rangers. When you're growing up, I wasn't pretending to be like, players from Man United or whatever. I was pretending to be Rangers players. So yeah, it was a big thing for me.
Yeah. What was it like that day, just being able to pull on the jersey?
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember it. my whole family was there watching.
Were they there at the signing on the day as well?
My dad was. There was a bit of a mess to signing. There was a little bit of maybe this is off here, it's back on again, it's off again. It took a couple of days, and then I think we got it done at like 12 o'clock on Saturday night. So I was at Ibrox, just me and my dad. A couple of other people got it signed, and so all the pictures I've got are like me and my dad at Ibrox at midnight. We just standing at the corner. It's just some good photos.
Yeah, you're in that dressing room. Talk us through before you're going out onto that part. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, first thing is that you've got the iconic dressing room and all that kind of stuff, training ground, everything's just, what you would imagine it to be as a Rangers fan. We go out, we beat Aberdeen 2-0, we play well, play the full game, and it was like, right, here we go. At the time, people weren't sure about the team we had or whatever, but it didn't matter to me. I was coming in to help whatever position Rangers were in.
Yeah, and in that team at the time, when you looked around that dressing room, was there players there that you thought, oh, I'm really looking forward to playing with him?
Yeah, you had people like Tavernier was obviously the biggest one. You knew how good a player he was. People like you had Josh Windass who was in there. Kenny Miller was still in there at the time. So you wanted to come in and help and just be a success.
You mentioned James Tavernier. Were you surprised in any way that he would go on to be, a Rangers captain that eventually would stop 10 and obviously a man who's scored a barrel load of goals?
Yeah, he's always had that in him. I've never played with a defender who's so ruthlessly wants to score and create goals. And obviously when Steven Gerrard came in, the formation kind of suited him. He could play a bit higher, and you can see from his numbers how well he's gone on to do. So, yeah, I'm glad for him. He puts the work in.
Yeah. When you look at that Rangers career from your own point of view, tremendous pride. For me personally, looking on, obviously I was well aware of the fact that as a Rangers fan, that would have been absolutely fantastic for you. When you picked up the injury, I was absolutely gutted because knowing you as I do, that would have been the absolute hammer blow.
It was, yeah. There's no way around it. And as soon as it happened, as soon as I took that step, I knew straight away this is a bad one. So,
yeah.
Thankfully I had some good people around me. The medical staff at Rangers were brilliant. I've done a lot of work with Steve, the physio there at the time, Fraser, and Russell, people like that. But it was just after the first couple of weeks disappointment, after the surgery, you're sitting there in pain. It was like, right, instead of being out on the training pitch every day and doing my best, I've got to do my best at my rehab, do my best in the gym, and then, hopefully come back soon.
Yeah, disappointment because possibly at that point you would have wanted to make an impression with Steven Gerrard and get to know him that little bit better and his style.
Yeah, because I'd started the season off well. I'd scored in the European game, and we'd started well. We were aiming to get to the group stages, Europa, and just to be taken away in that one instant, it was disappointing, obviously. Tried to go through the rehab, a couple of setbacks, but I think I'd got to 28 without ever having a proper injury, without ever missing more than one game at a time. So, I'm lucky in that sense that I kind of got to 28 before I had to miss a little bit of time.
Could you sense even then that there was a real title-winning side emerging?
Yeah, I knew as soon as he came in, the way training was, the way they were around the place, all the staff that he'd brought in, the way they wanted to, that was going to be the end goal. They would get there at some point. Whether it took a year or 2 or 3, you weren't sure, but you knew with the players they were signing, the way training was, that was what the end goal was going to be.
Yeah, you mentioned Tavernier. Was there other players there that you looked at and you thought, oof, this is the real deal?
Yeah, there was a few. Tavernier, Golson, people they'd brought in. Scott Arfield, when he came in, obviously played with Scotty at Scotland 21, so I knew him. Alfredo turned a corner when Steven Gerrard came in as well. And then that second season when you bring in people like Aribo, Kent, Kamara, people like that, you know these are proper players you're bringing in here.
Yeah. What was Alfredo like? Because having chatted to him at the PFA when he won goal of the season, I sensed a bit of devilment in him, but you never really get to. At times, you never really get to scratch the surface and see what he's like as a person.
Yeah, do you know what? It was really difficult with Alfredo because when I first came in, he didn't speak any English at all. People had to speak to him through. We had a lot of foreign boys at the time and whatever. So it obviously took a little bit of time to get used to it. And then when Gerrard came in, he started off pre-season on fire, and then just went from there. He scored 30 odd goals that season, and he's kept it going.
Yeah, and with that in mind, he's one of those guys that, for the period of time that he's been at Rangers, he's one of those guys that I thought everybody's always sniffing around saying he's going to get a move. Do you think when you look at him that he's one of those players who can play at the top level in England?
I think so. But sometimes that's the appeal of Rangers. People don't realise how good they have at a club like that, and they don't want to leave. But I'm sure, people don't stay at clubs forever, so I'm sure at one point he'll try something different and obviously be a success.
How difficult is it for you when you know that you have to go?
It was difficult. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Like, you dream of playing for that club and you want to stay and win trophies or whatever, but circumstances just dictate what happens. So I've always been about playing football. I've never went anywhere where I thought I wasn't going to play. And when at Brighton I thought I wasn't going to play, I moved. At Rangers, when I knew it got to the point where after my injury or whatever I wasn't going to play, it was like, right, now just find someone, just start playing and hopefully get back to enjoying it again.
When you get to that decision, do you lean on your dad to chat to him about it, your agent? Where is your focus of saying, right, I need to mull this over with certain people?
Yeah, it was definitely family first. My wife, my mum and dad, friends who were obviously big Rangers fans who would be at the game, and they'd be phoning me, "Are you in the squad this week?" And I'd be like, "No, just watching on the telly or whatever, or I'm going to the game." So it was difficult in the end, but it was agreement. There was nobody that said, "No, just stay." And I've never wanted to stay and just be a part of it in the background. It's not something I'll ever kind of accept, even though it would have been probably nice to stay, get the winners' medal at the end of the season, whatever. It wasn't even in my mind. It was all about playing football.
Yeah, you'll have kept a few of the tops.
I've got a few, yeah. I've got a few good ones from over the years, but yeah, I've got some Rangers ones. I remember the one I first got when I signed. I've signed it to my dad, and it's up in his wall in his house, so that's an important one.
And what about your favourite game?
Favourite game? We beat Hearts at home, and I scored a good goal. I ended up getting goal of the season that season for Rangers, so that was my first goal at Ibrox as well, so that's one that I cherish.
Yeah, and when you scored it, please tell me you picked out your dad in the stand.
I gave him a point. I knew exactly where he was sitting. He wasn't quite sitting in the season ticket that he used to have years ago, but he was sitting up in the family section. So
what was it about Hibs? Jack Ross, was it Jack just convincing you, look, there's something here for you? Yeah, it's obviously a great club. I mean, one of the biggest clubs in Scotland. So I'd spoke to Stephen McGinn, was in there at the time, had worked with Jack Ross before. He was good friends from Sheffield United, still speak to him a lot. He'd said the manager's really interested, what do you think, this and that. And it just came together perfectly, and we got it done. Yeah. What type of coach is he? Because a lot of people still look upon his departure as maybe premature, that he could have, if they'd have stuck with him, then Hibs might have reaped the rewards. Yeah, I thought it was harsh. The year before we got third place, which the club hadn't done, and I think it was maybe 16 years, something like that. Got to the cup final, lost the cup final. That next season, obviously we went on a bad run, lost 5-6 games in a row. Sometimes that happens, but we also got to the cup final. But the club decided to go a different direction, but it was just especially the timing of it the week before the cup final, I thought was a bit disappointing. Yeah. Did you see flashes of the qualities you've mentioned, managers that were tactically astute? I always got the impression he was in that category. Yeah, he
he knew his stuff. He knew his football. He watched a lot of football. He'd done a lot of coaching. He watched a lot of different managers, and he was really top level. He'd, again, like you said, he'd done a bit of both. He was tactically on the pitch very good, but you know, he made sure everyone was close in the dressing room. He would sit and he would come and chat. If you were sitting at lunch, he would come and join the table and you'd just have a chat about general life. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with him.
I got the sense, that there was moments, little flashes where I could see the Jamie Murphy that I knew as a player when you were in that team at Hibs.
Yeah, you know what? That when I played, I felt like I did really well, but the problem was not playing enough. It was kind of the first time in my career, whether it was the aftermath of the knee or whatever. I had a lot of hamstring problems. To get 5, 6, 7 in the one calendar year was just, at one point was almost unbearable. Do you know what I mean? You're thinking, is this it? Is this how it's going to go? What do I do next? Do I just try and stick it out?
Did you think about chucking it?
I did, yeah. There was a few times. I remember saying to the physios, and the physio was like, "Oh, you can't chuck it." Like, spoke to a couple of people and whatever, but you know, I love football. I'm going to try and do it as long as I can, but there was a few dark times.
Yeah, and of course, with that, you've mentioned the one recurring theme that I love about chatting to you, Jamie, is you want to play football. You don't want to take wages, sit on a bench and just be part of a number that might play a part, might not. Is that, again, what influenced you to get back with your old gaffer at Mansfield?
Definitely. I've never, like you said, I've never been one to sit there. I've done my whole career that way, so I'm not going to just change now. If I'm not playing somewhere, I'm going to look at somewhere where I can play. Whether that's going up or down a level or staying at the same, it doesn't really matter. It's fully about playing football for me. And that's just something that's came from being a youngster, and you just play every Saturday, or you play, when you were a youngster you played every Saturday, Sunday with your club and your school and whatever. I just carried that on, and then the thing came up with Nigel Clough down at Mansfield. He gave me the opportunity to go down, and it's went really well. I'm playing every week, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. Has he changed?
No, not in the slightest. No, he's still the same. Still the same values, and still the same morals, and we've got a really good team down there, and I got a good chance of promotion.
You've mentioned all those little points in your life where you've thought, I want to be a professional footballer, want to play at a level at domestically in Scottish football. You want to play down south in the Premier League. You wanted to play for Scotland. Tell me about being picked for your country and what that meant to you.
Yeah, it was massive. I mean, there was times where I was disappointed at not getting called up before. I'm not going to lie, there was times at Sheffield United, like I was winning Player of the Year and stuff at Sheffield United, and I was getting nowhere near it. And I was thinking, is it ever going to happen? Then obviously, somehow you get the move to Brighton, and all of a sudden you're in the Scotland squad. I don't know how that works, but that was kind of what it was.
Was it out of sight, out of mind in a kind of a really strange way because you're not in the top flight?
Yeah, absolutely. There was people in the Scottish Premier League getting called up who I thought I was maybe a better standard than they were. And then you just think, and again, that was a big part of why I had to leave Sheffield United. I thought, right, if I'm going to get into the Scotland squad, I've got to move. And I was in a couple of squads, never quite made my debut. And then Alex McLeish had got the job, and I'd got called up. And then the week before, I broke my toe, and Rangers were really not wanting me to go and play with Scotland. But I thought, something might happen. You never know what happens in football.
Yeah. So
I remember going with a broken toe, had to get in some injections in my toe and stuff like that. To play, and I made my debut and that kind of thing. And then, who would have it 4 months later? I'd do my knee, and I've not really been back since. So it was important at that time, and it just shows you sometimes you need to play through a little bit of pain to get what you want.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a lesson to youngsters up and down the country and people who look and wonder about the right attitude from domestic football to the desire to play international football, which, you know, not many people get the chance, but when you do get the chance, you realise it yourself. You've got 2 caps there, you've got 2 strips, which I imagine, if you've not got them framed, I'm chucking it.
Yeah, they're up on the wall. A few good ones up on the wall, but you know, they're in a nice position on the wall, the 2 of them.
Yeah, there's still a few years in you. What's your hope now? You're on loan at Mansfield. What's your hope, short term, maybe long term?
Firstly, is to get promoted with Mansfield. You know, you want to win the league or win promotion, whatever standards you're playing at. So that's definitely the aim in the short term, and then just go from there. Hopefully, find somewhere where I can play and again enjoy football, be competitive, and you know, enjoy these last couple of years of my career, because there was a couple of years there where it was where there was some dark days. So you know, play, enjoy football, just like your normal person that plays on a Sunday. Yeah,
have you 2-3 years maybe in you still? The legs, will they carry you?
I'm not sure about that, and you'll see how the old legs go. You know, I'm not quite lightning quick as maybe I was when I was 21, 22. So you know, you figure out different ways to do things, maybe play certain different positions, which I'm doing a little bit just now. So, you know, you go with the flow and see where it takes you.
Okay, and I can't let you leave without those little quick fire questions. The best player you've played with?
It was the captain at Brighton. We had the boy Bruno Saltor, his name was. He was just on a different level. He played with Valencia in the Champions League, teams like that. You know, he's pretty unheard of from most other pure press, especially in Scotland, but he was at a standard every day at training where he was just on another. He's the first player I've thought, he must think that we're all rubbish. He was that good at training and in games, every game, every training, every day in the gym. What he ate, he was just an example for me. You know, I started looking at what he was eating for lunch and all the exercise he was doing. You know, and he did that wasn't just me. It was most of the boys in the team were looking at him and trying to do what he did. And again, he was an example for all of us and a big reason why we got promoted.
It's a strange thing that it's like that Eric Cantona moment. Somebody comes in and just inspires you.
Absolutely, and he was definitely that figure. And all the same, he was that good. He could have moaned, he could have shouted at anyone. He'd done it all while being a really, really nice person and encouraging person to other people. And he was fantastic.
Yeah, great to hear that. It's not a player that a lot of people in Scotland would be aware of. What about the toughest one you've played against?
There was a few, but I'd probably say Kyle Walker. For obvious reasons, he was
going that way.
He was lightning quick. I played against him 2 or 3 times, and I remember once I really got the better of him. But there's a couple of times where you try to go past somebody and you just know you're not going to go past, so you eventually stop trying. He was a bit like that.
Yeah. Was there any banter with him?
Not really, but there was a bit of mutual respect, because obviously he was a Sheffield lad. We both played with Sheffield United, so we swapped strips at the end of the game. So his strips sitting nicely on my wall as well. Yeah, we always talk about people who talk to people through the games. Is there ever a player that you got involved with, you thought, he just irritates the life out of me? Not really, to be fair. I would say I'm a pretty quiet guy on the pitch. You know, you try and let the football do the talking and not speak that much. But you know, you get a few mouthy ones down in England. But I found that the more mouthy ones are usually lower down in the leagues. You know, the higher that it went up, it was more just business. And then the lower down, they like to have a bit of banter. Yeah,
and if you can recall one manager that just, it was one of those days you'll never forget because it was so funny. Is there a moment in a dressing room?
Yeah, I've had a few over the years, but I've got one that springs to mind was Archie Knox when we were at Motherwell. Obviously, Archie's a great character. He can really shout at you, but he'll be your best friend in the next minute. I remember he threw a tub. It was like he threw a tub of Vicks at Tom Haitley. Tom ducked out the road. It hit the wall. It smashed. It went all over Tom. It went all over his clothes. Everything. But then again, 5 minutes later, he's like, "Oh, forget about the game. Everything's done. Next game." So he was a great character.
Yeah. Listen, I've thoroughly enjoyed the chat, and of course going through all those managers. Is there one that is Nigel Clough almost the one that you wish you'd spent the longest period with?
He was the one where I had my most enjoyable time, and in the end, that's why we do it. We enjoy playing football. So yeah, I would probably definitely put him at the top. But there's other people. Craig Brown was a big influence. Mark McGee kind of came in and made me part of the first team, really, the first one. Chris Hughton was fantastic. Graham Murray, Steven Gerrard. I mean, I'm lucky enough that the managers I've worked under have got about 500 international caps between them all. So you learn a bit from all these guys.
Thanks to Jamie for joining us for that, and don't forget you can get more unique content on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed this content, subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel.